The radio cuts out, just like that. No warning. 1 second, the hum of frequencies fills the cabin. The next, it's gone. Nothing. Silence. I wait, staring at the console, willing it to come back. It doesn't. The quiet falls too quickly, too heavy, like a weight pressing against my chest. My breath catches, sharp, tight. I swallow, but my throat feels dry, scraped raw, as if even air is hard to pull in. I glance up at the crew. Every face is fixed on the same blank display. No one moves. No one speaks. We're all frozen in the same uneasy moment, waiting for the familiar static to return. But it doesn't. I wipe my sweaty palm on my sleeve and tighten my grip on the edge of the console until my knuckles ache. It's a routine operation. We've done this 100 times before. So why does it suddenly feel like the whole world just held its breath? The air shifts. I can't explain it, but I feel it. The temperature drops, sharp and wrong for this region. I rub my arms, trying to chase away the goosebumps crawling up my skin. A knot tightens in my gut, but I keep quiet. It's probably just the isolation messing with my head. That's what I tell myself. Then the fog rolls in, sudden, thick, fast. The kind that swallows everything, muffling the world until sound itself feels distant. I blink hard, trying to clear my vision, but the haze seems to push back, pressing against my eyes, warping shapes and shadows. My pulse pounds in my neck, slow and heavy. Something's not right. Something's about to change. I've been in the service long enough to know the rhythm of this life. The endless hours, the mechanical hum of engines, the churn of the sea beneath steel decks. You stop thinking about it after a while, you just do it. It becomes second nature. Routine keeps you sane. Discipline keeps you alive. We've seen everything. Rescues, lost ships, long patrols across open water where the horizon becomes your only companion. Days stretch, blur together until you can't tell one from the next. Out here, the silence becomes its own kind of noise. You learn to live with it, but you never stop feeling that distance, that quiet reminder that you're far from everything that matters. Still, there's always that faint unease, the feeling that something's just slightly off. Maybe it's the way the air feels thicker than it should, or how the horizon seems to shift when you're not looking. You don't talk about it, not out here. You can't. You just keep moving, keep working, pretending you don't feel the ocean staring back at you. But I see it in the crew's eyes, the same flicker I feel inside. The unease when the wind dies or the static creeps into the radio. We all know how easy it is for your mind to twist things after weeks at sea. Still, that little voice, that whisper of wrongness, it lingers. You bury it, but it never leaves. The day had started like any other. Equipment checks, gear in order, radios clear, fuel steady. It's all muscle memory now, done without thought. Everyone moved through the motions like clockwork. The ship creaked and groaned like it always did, and the engine's hum was steady, comforting even, like a heartbeat beneath the floor. The smell of salt and diesel filled the air, sharp and familiar. The sun barely touched the horizon, painting the waves in a pale, sickly light. The ocean stretched endlessly, flat and gray, like we were floating in some space between worlds. It felt normal, routine, but beneath that, something was different, something I couldn't quite name. It started small, a faint buzz of static, a low hum in the background that didn't belong. Not loud enough to report, but impossible to ignore. The air grew heavier, harder to breathe, like the atmosphere itself was thickening. The crew's voices were low, almost hesitant, like they didn't want to disturb whatever had settled over us. Even the silence sounded louder. The sun climbed higher, but its warmth never reached us. A chill clung to the air, not cold, just wrong. My fingers stiffened every time I reached for a switch or a valve, muscles tightening against something unseen. The ocean stayed still, flat, empty. It should have been peaceful, but it wasn't. The horizon blurred, sky and sea bleeding into one colorless smear. I told myself it was fine. It had to be. There was work to do. So we pushed through the routine. More checks, logs, reports, but the unease didn't fade. Someone on deck muttered about the birds. Normally this time of year, the skies were full of them. Today, nothing. Not a single gull. A few uneasy glances passed between the men, but no one spoke. The engine's hum felt too loud, too human in the void. I made my way across the deck for a routine walkthrough, boots clanging against the metal. That's when I noticed it, the wind. Or rather, the lack of it. The air was dead still. Not even a ripple. I caught myself holding my breath, afraid that even moving might break something fragile. The temperature dipped again. Not enough to bite, just enough to raise every hair on my arms. The silence deepened, thickened. I couldn't remember the last time I'd heard the wind or the rhythmic slap of waves against the hull. I forced a slow breath into my lungs, steady and deliberate. But no matter how deep I inhaled, it still felt like the world itself had stopped breathing. I knew better than to let paranoia take root. Out here, if you start chasing shadows, they'll swallow you whole. So, I forced myself back inside, eyes on the task in front of me. The others did the same, heads down, hands moving, but there was a new rhythm to it. Slower, hesitant, a glance here, a pause there. No one said a word, yet I could feel the question building in all of us. What's wrong? What's coming? Despite the unease, the thick silence, the strange tension that clung to the air like static, we carried on. Because that's what we did. We pretended nothing had changed. Pretended the quiet wasn't suffocating us from the inside. But deep down, every one of us felt it. Something had shifted. Something unseen. And I couldn't tell if we were waiting for it to pass or waiting for it to consume us. The first sign came quietly. The water moved. Subtle, unnatural. At first I didn't even notice. Just a faint ripple spreading across the surface like a whisper. The ship's steady hum filled the air, the morning light dull against the gray sea. Everything felt normal until it didn't. It started small, a disturbance off the port side, too soft to be a wave, too smooth to be a current. I frowned, watching it form, stretch and twist, but the air was still. No wind, no reason for movement. This wasn't the gentle sway of tides or the flick of a fin. It felt wrong. Wrong in the way only nature can be when something unnatural touches it. I stepped closer to the railing, boots scraping against the metal. "Hey, you see that?" I called out, my voice thin, tight, not my usual tone. A few of the crew turned, squinting into the haze. Some muttered. Some just stared. No one seemed sure what they were looking at, or if they wanted to be. The air shifted again, colder this time, heavier. I felt it settle over my skin like a wet cloth. The water wasn't rippling from below. It was pushing up as if something massive was pressing against the underside of the sea, struggling to rise. And the silence. God, the silence made it worse. The ripple stretched wider, bending light, distorting reflection. "Too smooth, too deliberate. You think it's a boat?" someone asked. But even he didn't sound convinced. "No wake," I said quickly, sharper than I meant. "Not a vessel." My words hung there heavy, unanswered. I'd been out here long enough to recognize every kind of wave, every kind of current. This wasn't any of them. The water seemed to fold in on itself, bending, breaking the way the ocean should never break. I felt my stomach twist. This wasn't a storm, wasn't a trick of the weather. It was something else, something that didn't belong here. Sweat gathered in my palms despite the cold. I gripped the railing until my hands ached. My breath came shallow, chest tight, every instinct screaming that something was beneath us. I turned to the others. Their faces were pale, tense, eyes wide with the same unspoken realization. This kind of stillness didn't happen. Not out here. Not ever. The ship creaked softly, rocking against the motionless water. Even the engine seemed to quiet, as if the entire vessel was holding its breath. Then I heard it, a hum. Low, deep, distant. It vibrated through the hull, a sound that wasn't really a sound, more like a feeling, a tremor you sense in your bones. My chest tightened as it crawled through me, echoing under my ribs. I looked around, but the others hadn't noticed yet. Not the way I had. The vibration was alive, deliberate, and it was growing stronger. My pulse hammered in my throat. I turned back to the water, searching for logic, for reason, for anything that could explain what I was feeling. But there was nothing, just the sea still and gray, waiting. "Turn the boat," I ordered suddenly, voice rougher than I intended. The captain didn't question me, he just moved. That's when the reality of it hit us all at once. How small we were. How utterly alone. The water didn't settle. It kept moving in that strange, slow rhythm, too heavy to be waves, too smooth to be a current. Not natural. Not right. A shiver climbed my spine, cold and deliberate. The air thickened, every breath feeling like I was inhaling through water. The pressure around us was rising, like the sea itself was pushing back. Then, there it was. A flash. Quick. Silver. Just beneath the surface. My heart stopped. The crew missed it. But I didn't. I saw it move, something massive. Fluid, alive, shifting under the waves. A shape that didn't belong to any creature I knew. The water shimmered once more, then stilled completely. And in that moment I knew. This wasn't just a bad feeling. Something was out there. Something was out there, watching, waiting. The sea wasn't just moving, it was alive. And deep down I knew. We were the next thing it wanted. We never should have come back. Every instinct screamed no, but something inside me, a dangerous mix of duty and curiosity, refused to turn away. We had to know what we'd seen. We had to see it again. Pretending nothing happened wasn't an option anymore. The crew tried to act normal, but I could feel it, the unease crawling through the air like static before a storm. You work with the same people for years, you learn their tells. The nervous laughs, the tight shoulders, the glances that lasted a little too long. They were feeling it too. Something was wrong. And we all knew it. The boat sliced through the unnaturally calm sea. No wind, no sound. Just the soft churn of the engine and that heavy, smothering quiet. I gripped the railing, my fingers biting into the cold metal as my stomach twisted. We circled the same spot, where the water had rippled, where I'd seen that flicker below the surface. Now it was gone. Like the ocean had swallowed the evidence, but I still felt it. Something was down there, staring back. I leaned over the railing, searching the depths. The water was too dark, too deep, like looking into a mouth that never ended. My chest felt tight, the air colder. Even the sunlight overhead felt distant, powerless. Something's off, I muttered. Steve stood beside me, his face pale, eyes darting over the endless blue. His jaw was tight, his body drawn in like he wanted to disappear. He didn't speak, just gave one small nod. That was enough. We both understood. Whatever this was, it wasn't normal. Then came the sound, a sharp crackle of static, ripping through the silence like a blade. I flinched, my heart jumping. The radio. It had been acting up all morning, but this wasn't interference. This was wrong. The hiss filled the air, crawling under my skin, making the hair on my arms stand. We need to leave, Steve said quietly, his voice trembling. I opened my mouth to agree, then froze. The water moved again, the same strange ripple. Only this time it was closer, bigger. The surface bulged outward. And then, something rose. It happened too fast to process. One moment, the sea was still. The next, a dark shape surged upward from the depths, massive, shifting, alive. I couldn't see it clearly. Just a shadow twisting beneath the surface, but my body reacted before my mind did. My pulse spiked, my throat locked. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Every instinct screamed run. The others stared in frozen horror. No one spoke. The only sound was our breathing. Fast, shallow, terrified. The thing moved again, and I saw it. Black and wrong, its shape bending through the water like it was defying the ocean itself. There was intelligence in that movement. Intent. It wasn't just moving. It was watching us. Jesus, Steve whispered. His hands shook as he reached for the controls, fingers slipping over the metal. I wanted to shout, "Go!" But my voice was gone. My chest burned, heavy and tight, like I was already underwater. Then, just as suddenly as it had come, it vanished. The shadow disappeared. The water stilled. Silence. But it wasn't the calm that scared me. It was the feeling that whatever it was hadn't left. The air was heavy, thick, wrong. My lungs ached with every breath. "Get us out of here," I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. That was all they needed. No one spoke as we turned the boat around. The only sounds were the hum of the engine and the rhythmic slap of the waves against the hull. I stared back at the water, heart pounding, mind spinning. I didn't know what we had just seen. I just knew it was real, and it was still out there. One thing was clear. We couldn't stay. Not out here, not with that thing still waiting beneath us. But even as we pulled away, I knew deep down. It wasn't over. The air felt wrong. It wasn't just heavy, it was suffocating, like the entire ocean had closed in around us. The weight of it pressed against my chest, squeezing every breath. The engine rumbled below my feet, steady but distant, its usual hum swallowed by a silence that didn't belong to this world. Even the slap of waves against the hull sounded muted, like the sea was holding its breath, listening. I didn't know what I expected after turning back. Relief, maybe. Safety. But not this. This silence that felt alive. As we drifted further from the place where we'd seen it, the world around us seemed frozen. The water was too still. The air too still. Nothing moved, no birds, no wind, just waiting. I kept glancing over my shoulder, convinced I'd see something following us. Something just beyond sight, gliding through the black water. I couldn't shake it. The feeling that whatever was out there wasn't finished with us. The crew felt it too. No one spoke. No one looked up. You could feel their fear in the quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your skin until it hurts. It felt like if any one of us breathed too loud, something would hear us. I reached for the radio, my hands trembling so badly I had to brace them against the console. The static was back, harsh, loud, and wrong. But this time it didn't sound like static. It felt like it was inside me, vibrating through my chest. My teeth ached from it. My pulse matched its rhythm. I forced my thumb onto the button. "Control, this is Bravo 3. We've encountered a disturbance requesting immediate..." The radio snapped off mid-sentence. Nothing but static. Then silence. My heart started pounding hard enough to hurt. I tried again. No response. The line was dead. When I turned, the crew was watching me, their faces pale, hollow. Their eyes wide. They didn't need to speak. I saw the same question written on all of them. What if it's still out there? The fear was thick enough to taste. It filled the cabin like smoke, clinging to every breath. And then, the water moved. Not a ripple this time. It rose. Something beneath the surface was pushing upward, dragging itself toward us. The shape twisted, massive and slow, like the ocean was folding in on itself. I froze. My muscles locked. Every instinct screamed run, but I couldn't move. Behind me, someone gasped, sharp and broken. I turned just enough to see Steve. He was white as chalk, gripping the side rail like it was the only thing keeping him from falling into the dark. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I spun back to the controls, sweat dripping down my temples. My palms slipped against the wheel. The thing below us was rising, higher, closer, real, and then I saw it. Not just a shadow anymore. A form, huge, twisted, wrong. Its shape didn't make sense. Its edges bending, folding inward like it was breaking the rules of existence itself. Light slid off its surface like oil. It shimmered, translucent and alive, its form shifting faster than my brain could comprehend. The longer I looked, the less my eyes understood what they were seeing. My breath caught. My lungs burned. I didn't even realize I'd stopped breathing until my vision started to blur. My throat felt dry and raw, like I'd been screaming, but no sound had left me. Every part of me wanted to look away. But I couldn't. The sea was no longer just water. It was a door, and something was trying to come through. My voice broke through the silence. "We need to get out of here." And even as I said it, I knew. It might already be too late. Steve finally managed to speak, his voice breaking like glass as he staggered toward the back of the boat. His legs trembled, as if the deck itself had turned to liquid beneath him. But there was no time, no room left to breathe. The air around us felt wrong, bending, warping, like reality itself was collapsing inward. Every breath I took felt heavier, slower, as though the whole world was being sucked into this single, impossible moment. I lunged for the controls, yanking the throttle with both hands, but the engine sputtered and died, coughing like it had been strangled. Panic rose in my throat. I slammed my fist against the console, a sharp pain radiating up my arm as I cursed, twisting the throttle again, harder, desperate to force life back into it. Sweat trickled down my spine, hot against the unnatural chill in the air. Nothing. The boat wouldn't move. Then the ocean erupted, a soundless explosion, a violent push of water so strong it rocked the boat like a toy. The force vibrated through my feet, up my legs, into my gut, rattling my bones. I staggered, gripping the edge of the console as the sea itself seemed to rear up against us. And then I saw it. The thing, rising, higher now, towering above the surface. A black, twisted mass that defied logic, its form shifting like smoke trapped underwater. My vision blurred. My head spun. I thought for a moment I'd lose consciousness. "Get us out, now!" I screamed, my own voice unrecognizable, hoarse, almost breaking. But the words didn't matter. Nothing mattered. The boat heaved again, harder this time, and a sudden gust of icy wind sliced across my face like a blade. My heart pounded so violently it felt like it might burst from my chest. I looked up, and it was there, inches from the hull, a writhing, shifting darkness, shapes inside shapes, all bound together by some invisible gravity. It wasn't just in the water. It was distorting the water, bending it, pulling reality itself into its orbit. My breath caught. My fingers went numb on the wheel, and then, as if it had never existed, the thing collapsed back into the sea, silent, gone. The water sealed over it like nothing had happened at all. We sat frozen, no words, no movement, only the soft slap of waves against the hull. The air felt thinner now, like breathing through cloth. I wanted to scream, but my voice was locked somewhere deep in my chest. We had no answers, no sense of what had just happened. All I knew was that we were no longer in control. We were just drifting, waiting, and some part of me knew we weren't done. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't finished with us. The report I filed later barely made sense. I remember typing the words, but they felt foreign, like someone else's hands had written them. I couldn't even look at the form as I handed it over, knowing they'd read it, analyze it, bury it. They called it a routine disturbance, an operational glitch, a malfunction, just another blip on the radar. They didn't write about the shape in the water. They didn't write about the ocean bending in on itself. They didn't write about the air turning heavy, alive, watching us. I sat in the briefing room while they nodded and scribbled, all calm, all routine. None of them felt it. None of them saw it. And before I even realized what I was doing, I stood up and walked out into the open air, desperate to breathe again. Even the fresh breeze felt suffocating. It hit my face like cold glass, but it didn't clear my head, didn't ease the pressure. The air was wrong. Too heavy, too still. I couldn't shake the weight pressing down on me, like a hand on the back of my neck. Something had changed. Everything had changed. Maybe it was just me. Maybe I was the one who had cracked out there. The thought should have been comforting, but it wasn't. Back on the boat, nothing felt the same. It was as if the world had tilted a fraction of a degree, enough to make every edge sharp and unreal. Colors looked off. Sounds echoed wrong. Even my own footsteps didn't sound like mine. I told myself it was stress. Shared hallucination. The mind playing tricks after too many days at sea. But the words rang hollow in my skull, because deep down, I knew better. Whatever had happened. Out there, whatever that thing in the water had been, wasn't in my head. It was real. It had reached out, touched us, and left its mark behind. I still feel it in my chest, that pull, that crushing tightness, like invisible fingers closing around my ribs. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I swear I can hear it again. The low hum, the pulse beneath the waves. It's a truth that hasn't left me. A truth I'm not sure I'll ever escape. It sits in the back of my mind, dark and patient, like the ocean itself is holding on to it, holding on to me. No matter how many reports I write, no matter how many debriefings they run, they'll never know. They'll never understand what really happened out there. Some things don't stay in the water. Some things follow you back.